Be me Leo, 28 years old, working a comfortable but unremarkable job in the graphic design department of a mid-sized marketing firm. Life is pretty standard. I have a decent apartment, a cat named Jasper who thinks he owns the place, and a small circle of friends I see on weekends. The office is your typical corporate fishbowl. Cubicles, beige walls, the constant hum of the air conditioner, and the smell of slightly burnt coffee. The cast of characters is what you'd expect. There's Marcus, my desk mate, a genuinely good guy who loves fantasy football a little too much. There's Chloe from accounting, who is sweet but wouldn't say boo to a goose. And then there's Isabella. Isabella works in the copywriting department. She's sharp, very good at her job, and possesses a level of confidence that could probably deflect bullets. She is also, to put it mildly, a very vocal feminist. Now, I have no problem with feminism. I believe in equality, I respect strong women, my mom raised me right. But Isabella's brand of feminism felt less about equality and more about a constant, low-grade disdain for about half the human population. It was in the little things. Like the time our boss, a well-meaning older guy named Mr. Henderson, was explaining a new software update in a meeting. He stumbled over a technical term, and Isabella leaned over to Chloe and whispered, just loud enough for me and Marcus to hear, "He's mansplaining his own incompetence." Mr. Henderson wasn't mansplaining. He was just a 55-year-old man trying to understand cloud-based asset management, or the constant stream of articles she'd post in the general office chat channel. 10 ways the patriarchy is ruining your lunch break. Why men are emotionally stunted and what women can do about it. Anytime a man in the office did something stereotypically male, she'd roll her eyes. Marcus once spent his lunch break putting together a new ergonomic chair that had been delivered in a flat-pack box. Isabella walked past, glanced at the Allen key in his hand, and said, "Oh, look at him. Engaging in some primitive tool use. It's almost adorable." Marcus just laughed it off, but I could see the comment stung a little. He was just trying to build a chair. My interactions with her were minimal. I'd nod politely in the hallway, say good morning, and otherwise keep my head down. I learned early on that engaging was a fool's errand. One time, I held a door open for her when she was carrying a stack of papers. She stopped, looked at the door, looked at me, and said, "I am perfectly capable of opening my own doors, Leo. But I appreciate the gesture, even if it is a relic of a bygone era where women were seen as decorative and helpless." I just said, "Okay," and let the door close. After that, I just let her open her own doors. This particular chapter of my life started on a Tuesday afternoon. The sky outside was turning a weird, bruised shade of purple. Meteorologists on the local news were using words like unprecedented and historic weather event. A massive storm system was churning its way toward us. They were calling it a supercell or something dramatic like that. The office was buzzing. People were talking about stocking up on batteries, bottled water, and canned goods. Mr. Henderson, bless his heart, decided to let everyone leave a few hours early to get home and prepare. "Be safe out there, everyone," he announced, looking genuinely concerned. "Check on your neighbors, charge your devices, and for heaven's sake, stay indoors tonight." As we were all packing up, Isabella held court near the coffee machine. "It's honestly fascinating to watch," she said, sipping from her artisanal ceramic mug. "This collective male anxiety. The storm comes, and suddenly every man with a checking account is at the hardware store, buying things they don't need, pretending to be some kind of rugged survivalist." Chloe giggled nervously. "Oh, I don't know, it seems pretty serious." "It's a storm, Chloe," Isabella said with a condescending smile. "We're not being invaded. The power might go out for a few hours. I'm prepared. I have a bottle of Cabernet, 3 organic dark chocolate bars, and a new book of poetry. I'll be fine. It's the performative masculinity that I find so tiresome. All this talk of generators and plywood. It's a Freudian nightmare." Marcus, who was putting on his jacket, overheard and chimed in. "I'm just worried about the big oak tree in my front yard. If a heavy branch comes down, it could take out my roof." Isabella scoffed. "Please, that tree has probably been there for 100 years. I think it can handle a little bit of wind. Men always need something to conquer, even if it's just the weather." I was walking past on my way out and she turned her attention to me. "What about you, Leo? Are you heading home to wrestle a bear and protect your homestead?" I just shrugged. My apartment has a big picture window that faces west. The wind is supposed to come from that direction. I have an old sheet of plywood in my storage locker. I figured I'd put it up just in case. And I want to check on Mrs. Gable next door. She's 80-something and lives alone. The look she gave me was a mixture of pity and contempt. Oh, Leo, boarding up a window, how wonderfully primitive. A big, strong man protecting his cave. I'm sure Mrs. Gable will be very impressed with your heroism. I didn't have the energy to argue. Have a good night, Isabella. Stay safe, I'll be fine, she said, turning back to Chloe. Unlike some people, my sense of security doesn't depend on a piece of wood and a hammer. The drive home was eerie. The wind was already picking up, making the traffic lights sway violently. The rain started as a light drizzle and quickly escalated into a torrential downpour. I got the plywood out of my storage unit in the basement of my building. It was heavy and awkward. I had to wrestle it up 3 flights of stairs. By the time I got it into my apartment, I was already soaked and sweating. Jasper, my cat, watched me from the safety of the sofa, his expression one of deep disapproval. It took me the better part of an hour to secure the plywood over the large living room window. I wasn't a professional carpenter, but my dad had taught me the basics. I drilled pilot holes and used heavy-duty screws to anchor it to the frame. It wasn't pretty, but it was solid. With the window covered, the apartment became dark and cavernous. The sound of the wind was muffled, but I could still feel a faint vibration through the floor. I knocked on Mrs. Gable's door. She opened it a crack, a little bird of a woman with wide, worried eyes. Leo, dear. Isn't this just awful? It's a bad one, Mrs. Gable. Are you doing okay? Do you have everything you need? Oh, I think so. I have my radio and my candles. Harold, my late husband, he was always prepared for things like this. That's good. Well, if you need anything, and I mean anything at all, just bang on the wall, okay? I'll be right here. She gave me a grateful, watery smile. You're a good boy, Leo. Thank you. I went back to my apartment and did all the sensible things. I filled the bathtub with water just in case. I charged my phone and a couple of power banks. I made a sandwich and ate it while listening to the news on the radio. The storm was getting worse. The reporters sounded increasingly stressed. They were talking about widespread power outages and flash flooding. Around 8 o'clock, the lights flickered once, twice, and then went out for good. The building's emergency lights kicked on in the hallway, casting a spooky, dim glow under my door, but inside my apartment it was pitch black. The sound of the storm was immense. It wasn't just wind anymore, it was a physical force, a deep, guttural roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. The rain was hitting the plywood over my window with the force of thrown gravel. I lit a few candles. Jasper, who was usually a brave adventurer, was now hiding under my bed, refusing to come out. I sent a text to Marcus. You good man? A minute later, a reply came back. Yeah, power's out. The big oak tree is still standing for now. This is insane. Tell me about it. Stay safe. You too. I spent the next couple of hours just sitting in the dark, listening. There's a strange intimacy to a city during a blackout. You hear things you normally wouldn't. The sirens, distant and lonely, the creak and groan of the building, the relentless, terrifying howl of the wind. It was unsettling. I'm not an anxious person by nature, but I felt a knot of genuine fear tightening in my stomach. This wasn't just a storm. It felt like the world was coming apart at the seams. I tried to read a book by candlelight, but I couldn't focus. Around 11 o'clock, my phone rang. The screen lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, thinking it was a spam call that had somehow slipped through, but something made me answer. Hello? The voice on the other end was choked with panic. It was high-pitched and breathless. Leo. Oh my God, Leo, is that you? It took me a second to place it. The voice was all wrong, stripped of its usual confidence and sarcasm. It was Isabella. Isabella, what's wrong? Are you okay? A sob broke through the phone. No. No, I'm not okay. It's oh God, Leo, it's my window. What about your window? It broke, a tree branch, a huge one, it came right through it. There's glass everywhere and the rain is coming in and the wind, oh my God, the sound it's making. I'm in my bathroom. I locked the door. I don't know what to do. Her words were tumbling out in a frantic, terrified rush. This wasn't the cool, collected intellectual from the office. This was someone who was genuinely falling apart. Did you call 911? I asked, my voice calm, almost automatic. Yes, I tried. They said they can't send anyone unless it's a life-threatening fire or medical emergency. They said the streets are flooded and there's too much debris. They told me to shelter in place. What about your friends, family? I tried. Nobody is answering, or they live too far away. I called my parents, they're 3 hours away. They told me to just stay in the bathroom and wait until morning. Leo, please, I'm so scared. The wind it's pouring into my apartment. I could hear it in the background now. A high, shrieking whistle like a freight train passing right through her living room. I closed my eyes. A part of me, a small, petty, vindictive part, felt a flicker of grim satisfaction. The woman who mocked me for wanting to board up my window. The woman who lectured me about performative masculinity. The woman who prattled on about her Cabernet and her book of poetry. Here she was, calling the very person she ridiculed, begging for help. It would have been so easy to say, "Sorry, Isabella, I can't help you. You should have been more prepared." It would have been so easy to tell her to just wait until morning, but then I pictured it. Her, alone in her apartment in the dark, the sound of shattering glass. The feeling of the wind and rain invading her home, her safe space. The raw, unfiltered terror in her voice. She wasn't an ideology. She wasn't a collection of annoying opinions. She was a person who was in trouble and terrified. My conscience kicked in hard. What kind of man would I be if I just left her like that? My dad's voice echoed in my head, a memory from years ago when he helped a neighbor whose car had broken down. You don't help people because they deserve it, son. You help them because they need it. I took a deep breath. Okay, Isabella, listen to me. Where do you live? She gave me her address. I knew the area. It was about a 15-minute drive away on a good day. Tonight, it would be a nightmare. All right, I said, my mind already shifting into problem-solving mode. Stay in the bathroom, keep the door closed, don't go into the living room. It's too dangerous with the broken glass and the wind. I'm going to come over. The relief in her voice was a palpable thing even over the phone. Really? You'll really come? I'm on my way. It's going to take me a while. The roads are probably a mess. Just stay put and stay on the phone with me if you can. Okay, thank you, Leo. Oh my God, thank you. I hung up and started to move. First, I put on my heaviest boots and my waterproof jacket. Then, I gathered my tools. I had a heavy-duty tarp in my storage locker. I grabbed that along with a powerful flashlight, my tool bag with a hammer and a staple gun, a pair of thick work gloves, and a pry bar. Just before I left, I grabbed one of my fully charged power banks and a cable. A hunch told me she might need it. I peeked under the bed. I'll be back soon, Jasper. Be a brave boy. He just stared at me with wide, luminous eyes. I knocked on Mrs. Gable's door again. I have to go out for a bit, I told her through the door. A friend is in trouble. Leo, you can't. It's too dangerous out there. I'll be careful. Just wanted you to know so you don't worry if you hear me leave. Please be safe, dear. The journey to Isabella's apartment was like navigating a post-apocalyptic movie set. The rain was coming down in sheets, so thick that my windshield wipers on their highest setting could barely keep up. The wind was rocking my car. Tree branches littered the streets. A couple of trash cans had been blown into the middle of the road, and I had to swerve to avoid them. Most of the traffic lights were out, so every intersection was a cautious, four-way stop crawl. The 15-minute drive took me almost 45 minutes. Her apartment complex was a collection of modern, three-story buildings. It was completely dark, a series of black monoliths against the raging, storm-tossed sky. I parked as close as I could to what I hoped was her building. I had to wade through ankle-deep water in the parking lot. I found her building number and went inside. The hallway was pitch black and silent, except for the roar of the storm outside. I climbed the stairs to the second floor, my flashlight beam cutting a nervous path through the darkness. I found her apartment number. I could hear the wind howling from inside, a mournful, terrifying sound. I knocked hard on the door. Isabella, it's Leo. I heard a scuffling sound from within, and then the door opened. The person standing there was almost unrecognizable. It was Isabella, but all her sharp edges had been worn away by fear. Her hair was a mess stuck to her face. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She was wrapped in a thick duvet, shivering not just from the cold but from sheer terror. The confident, sarcastic woman from the office was gone. In her place was a scared, vulnerable person who looked about 16 years old. Leo, she whispered, her voice cracking. I stepped inside and the full force of the situation hit me. Her living room was a complete disaster zone. A massive, jagged branch as thick as my leg was jutting through a shattered picture window. It looked like a claw reaching into her home. Shards of glass covered the floor, glistening menacingly in the beam of my flashlight. The wind was gusting through the gaping hole, sending papers and magazines flying around the room. A fine mist of rain coated everything, and a large puddle of water was spreading across her hardwood floor. The room was cold. Bone-chillingly cold. She just stood there staring at the destruction, looking utterly lost and helpless. I didn't say, "I told you so." I didn't say, "Maybe you should have boarded up your window." I didn't say anything remotely close to what the petty part of my brain was screaming. I just looked at the mess, looked at her and said, "Okay, let's get this sorted." My calm, matter-of-fact tone seemed to break her trance. She just nodded, pulling the duvet tighter around herself. "First things first," I said, putting my tool bag down. "Stay out of this room, go back to your bedroom or the bathroom, there's too much glass on the floor." She scurried away without a word. I put on my work gloves and got to work. The first task was dealing with the tree branch. It was wedged tight in the window frame. I had to use the pry bar to work it loose, grunting with the effort. The wind fought me the W.